Okay, we'll start again where we started yesterday, just to get a flow of continuity. And this is 7 lines from the bottom on page AyinBase 7. The line begins with kuli. So the Rebbe is explaining the principle to point out clearly the distinction between when we say etzem hanefesh, which is etzem chai, or even at the lower level etzem hachamo, which is etzem muor, etzem oyer. Both of these are etzem, but they're etzem with a certain description. That's called a toyer. Even though that toyer does not denote some kind of a possession. The nefesh does not possess life, it is life. The sun does not possess light, it is light. And therefore this is what's called the etzem. The toyer is metayed the etzem. And now we're going to continue further. As in the case, for example, of toyar chocham, toyar chocham, lish le'hahepech. But the intent of it there is to negate the opposite of chocham. Harei zeh chocham be'etzem. That would be denoting a chocham be'etzem, in essence a chocham. Therefore, it has a toyer of chocham. Rak, except there is a supremacy, the superior quality, a superior reference. When you say chocham be'etzem, that it is not b'chinas chocham yidiyah, that it does not have what's called a knowable and identifiable aspect of chochma. That's what's called chocham be'etzem. But he said, the point is that it is a toyer, it is a limiting toyer. And therefore, by the process and as a result of this negation of toyerim, of negation, that's a no, negate not chochma, that provides an element of knowledge, v'hakora, and cognizance be'etzem adover. You get some kind of a cognizance in the etzem adover, in the very essence of the thing itself. What is it? Even though this is an atzmi, and an atzmi cannot be known, but since it has a toyar, which negates anything opposite that toyar, it gets you a sense of what this etzem is. As it says in Kuli Teira, quoting the Meir Nevuchim, therefore, since it provides a means of getting to know something about etzem adover, that means that it is not totally negation. Total negation is that negating a chokhmah, an identifiable quality, rather than negating the description totally. If this were actually a total negation, that there is no description whatsoever, how then is it possible that from this should result some kind of a positive knowledge? Okay, this we already went through, so you went quite quickly. Elo. Therefore, we have to conclude. Shegam toyare hashlila. that Toyarim of negation, and as we explained already, just to bring it back in order, to what we need to know for the further on, Toyarim of negation means that you are referring to something that is by essence that Toyar. Like we say, for example, and we discussed many times, the principle of wealth, or of a human being, a living human being. A living human being is alive, a nefesh together with the goof. The goof is alive, but it's not alive in essentially in its own. It's alive because it has a living neshama in it. Therefore, the meaning of life is a true description, identifiable description, because the goof can be known with or without this life. Whereas Torah Hashlila means you cannot refer to one without the other. It is through and through that inyan. Hamatarim or mechayvim be'ezedover. That they also metayr. I think that here, if you're careful with the digla, I think the hay of hamatarim, I think is incorrect. I think that the way to read this should be gam toya hashlila metarim o mechayvim b'deizedover. But toya hashlim also metayr something, so therefore there is a something that they are metayr. Since there is something, therefore kol zeh, in this entire realm, ein shayach klal be'atzmus yisborich. It's not possible, it's not applicable totally at all in Atzmus. Atzmus cannot be alluded to in any which way to a dover, to a presence that can be described. And as it's actually described elsewhere, the al Atzmus, that referring to Atzmus Shayach Rag Shem Ein Soif. Only term that you can refer to, that you can use to refer to Atzmus, is only the name, the term Ein Soif. Ein Soif means without end. Without end. And the Rebbe is going to get into this concept. The term of Ein Soif, that's the only way you can refer to Atzmus. Ein Soif itself over here needs to be qualified. Pirish Ein Soif kan, the meaning of the word Ein Soif over here in this context, Ein Inyonoi Bli Gvul. The point in the word Ein Soif in here is not to say Bli Gvul, without limit. Shezeh, because the name from Bli Gvul, Shayach Rag Beho'oir, is only possible to be speaking of about oir. This will be described. V'lochein, and for this reason, Ein Soif b'gematria oir. Ein Soif is b'gematria, the numerical value of oir is Ein Soif. Mishukos b'mokimach. The Ein Soif, in terms of Ein Soif, Bli Gvul, meaning it extends without limit, that is applicable only to oir. Because oir extends. If I say it extends without limit. Ki'im, what then is the meaning of Ein Soif here? You say the Bli Gvul is not applicable. In Yon Inyan Ein Soif Bekam, the concept of Ein Sof. In this context, speaking about Atzmus, or Shlilas HaToyarim, it is Shlilas HaToyarim, the elimination and negation, the concept of Toyarim of any kind of description. The only thing you say about is Ein Sof. Ein Sof defies any kind of description. And this is why Ein Sof is used to refer to Atzmus. And in what context? Not Ein Sof that it has no limit, nothing limited is. Because that is possible only in Oyer. Oyer emanates and it never stops. Asmus does not emanate and doesn't, and therefore never stopping does not apply to it. Therefore, what is the meaning from Ein Sof referring to Asmus? Shlilas HaToyarim, the absence of Toyarim, the absence of any kind of description, something that is Ein Sof. It means that you can't really grasp it, you cannot really identify it with any kind of a toyar. In parentheses, call toyar, because any toyar with tzir v'hagbal, a toyar by definition is some kind of a tzir, some kind of a form. V'hagbala, and a limiting quality, defining it one way or the other. And that is not possible on Atzmus. That's why we say Ein Sof, to denote the absence of any kind of description, of any kind of definition. V'hu, and thus Ein Sof means Shlilas HaChiyuv u'Shlilas HaShlila. The absence of chiyuv, the absence of a positive description, and the absence of shlila, the absence of negation, saying it's unlimited, and that it has no limit is not a proper way, is not a proper description for Atzmus. As we discussed yesterday, that our knowledge of a lakus is not via any kind of identity, any kind of a definitive reference. Interesting. I happened to look this morning in the Kutitera and this parsha, where the Rebbe asks. It says, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. And it says the difference begins, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. Anoichi Ayam Hashem Elokecha. And he asks this question, how can Anoichi refer to Atzmus? Anoichi means a definitive presence. Definitive presence is not possible to refer to Atzmus. Exactly this question. And he explains that Anoich Hashem Elokecha refers to the union of giving mitzvahs, as we said yesterday. That how do we know what is our recognition, what is our relation to Elokus? So Atzmus is the union from Kabbalah's Hamal, Kabbalah's Amalchus, Kabbalah's oil. It says Nasa v'Nishma. This is how we know how it refers to it. It is defined by us, not to know Him directly. That is totally incorrect. What's it incorrect? That's what it says over here. Ein Sof over here. Even Ein Sof is not a proper description, because Ein Sof means that there is a presence, but it is unlimited. It's incorrect.
What was the Rebbe's question exactly about Anochi Hashem Elokecha, and how is it related to our topic?
Anochi Hashem Elokecha means what? I.
Yeah.
I is a presence.
Okay.
So how is it? How can a presence be referred to Hashem Elokeinu? And all this is just re-emphasizing the point. It's a very important point. And it's an important point on all fronts, both in Haskalah and this Maimah, and particularly, as we pointed out, particularly for our avodah, for our awareness. That we should know that our knowledge of Elokus is not a direct knowledge. There's nothing to know. Being that the Atmos is totally remote, moved legamri means totally remote. What is meant remote? Remote from any kind of references that we can have within our context. This is going back to the original question. About 2 pages ago, what is the meaning? How is the meaning from Shochas Ha'ora? That there should be a Ha'ora from Hashem. To put it directly, they explain all the time. Ha'ora means a reflection. A reflection means that it's reflecting the source of this, like the ha'ora of the sun is reflecting oyer. The ha'ora of the neshama is reflecting chayus. It is only a ha'ora, but it's reflecting what the neshama is. Atzmos is moved legamri from any mitzvah, from any definition. So how can it be a hamshochas ha'ora? What is the ha'ora of what? A reflection of what? If there is no entity, what is the ha'ora reflect? Oyer, we explain all the time, is a ha'ora of the etzem. And oyer is a reflection of what the etzem is. How can there be altogether a ha'ora from Atzmos, which is not a non-entity? I'm just going to repeat the question again for clarity purposes because it's an important question. Why is it an important question? As we shall see when we get to discuss the, so to speak, the explanation to the question. It's a very important question. And the significance of this question is that we should to understand that we have the world. The world is a name of as I said, this ha'ora from Elokus, ha'ora from Atzmos, and so to speak, Hashem's name is revealed, and it's effectual in the entire existence. If it is a ha'ora from Elokus, from Atzmos, that means that it is actually reflective of Atzmos. Let's take this as it would be if it were true. in the motion in the motion of the neshama, motion of the human being. The human being is phenomenally varied. And the variety and the ability of the human being is limitless. He can adapt to any situation. And we spoke about yesterday. He can change his point of reference. He can change his sense of language totally from a contained language to a totally a language of remes, of an allusion, a writing method of alphabetic and controlled or hieroglyphics. He can change in enormous variety, unlimited. So you would say, so with this limitless means of expressing himself, you would say that's a human being. It is a human being. But because the human being has a presence, and the presence can express itself in this enormous variety, and that describes a human being. It is important to understand that the entire variety, the limitless reality that exists in the world, does not capture Atmos. This is not a statement of Atmos. Atmos is able to produce this unlimited variety in existence.
Like the variety of the human being does not capture his identity? Is that
the right in human being does capture the human being, because the human being is a neshama, a living neshama. Yes, and what his life means, like we said many times, we cannot really understand life, but what points a point to it. If you have a cut in the finger, the life is not affected by it, and it will heal to eliminate any trace of that cut. Because it's a reality in itself. It is not dependent on a certain state. So even if the finger is cut, which is the kuli for that chayus, the chayus itself remains intact, perfectly intact, to the extent that it forces the healing process in the finger and restores it completely.
I want to see if I'm getting the point here. That this with the cut right now is to indicate a undefined human reality that is somehow active, and so too. But we said this huge variety and scope and adaptability.
That's identifying a human being. It's a human person.
Is the point that it's based on a human identity that's not manifest? I'm not getting what we're saying, what the mashal is, what the nimshal is here.
I'm saying that this is this infinite reality is alluding to the essence of a human being, but it cannot be used at the same variety that we have infinite reality in the creation, that should describe Atmos.
Okay.
The only, as I said yesterday, the only way to relate to Atmos, to Elokus, is by saying that Atmos, that Hashem gave, and Hashem said, He gave us mitzvahs, and we accept the mitzvahs, but Kabbalah said, Nasa v'nishma. Not that we understand its correctness, but we accept in His command. That's a Nasa v'nishma. This is what the Rebbe is asking. How can ha'ora, what's meant ha'ora? Ha'ora means a reflection of it. How can there be a reflection of Atmos when there is nothing to reflect? The reflection of a human being is possible because there is an entity, a human being. A reflection of the neshama is possible because neshama has a definition of chai be'etz. But how can be a reflection of Atzmus, which is a non-entity? Ultimately, as we shall see and we will discuss it, it's important to understand that which is revealed in the creation and in this ha'ora is way beyond the limits that this ha'ora represents. This ha'ora represents a ha'ora of something. But really, this ha'ora is representing not a something beyond something. This is the principle, as we shall see, yesh mei ayin. Yesh mei ayin means it's a yesh, but where is it coming from? Oh, it's coming from ayin. No, there's no correlation there at all. The yesh is not reflective of the ayin. The yesh is there because it was intentionally created. By knowing the yesh, you cannot thereby reach the ayin. This is real pshat of yesh mei ayin.
What was the point that the something is there because it was intentionally created?
As we should, this will say, it was created not because it is a reflection of its source.
Okay.
And I want to carry it again to the significance as far as we're concerned. Therefore, when we say Nasa Benishma, it is exactly what are we going to do, what we are commanded to do, not what we understand God to be. This is why, who is our guide? The Shulchan Aruch. I need the Shulchan Aruch. I'm an intelligent man. Can't I know what I'm supposed to do? There is no correlation to the etzem and that we were told to do. The more we understand it, the more we relate to it, but it remains a nasa v'nishma, nasa without any understanding, any reasoning. This is a very subtle, very important distinction. This is what happened in the general world. You say, Abai and Rebbe, they were able to debate halacha. We can also debate halacha. You know, in the Reform movement, in the conservatism, why can't I also decide halacha? Halacha is known not by your seichel, but by bittul, by Kabbalah soil. That's how halacha is derived. Like we pointed out yesterday, the time is up, so I just want to remind ourselves. Most significant principle that we know, Avraham Avinu, the Gemara says, the Medrash says, Avraham Avinu, he saw a bira, he saw a tremendous edifice, he saw a phenomenal edifice. He saw with his intellect how great the world is. And he says, Yesh Bal Habayis Lebirazu, there's a Bal Habayis. And he was looking for the Bal Habayis. What are you looking for? You see the bira, so from this you derive who the Bal Habayis is. He says, Yesh Bal Habayis, where is the Bal Habayis? And he was ill at ease. Where is the Bal Habayis? Bal Habayis is reflected in the bira. No. How did he finally relate to the Bal Habayis? Bal Habayis came to him and said, I'm the Bal Habayis. That's what the man says. He says all Bal Habayis and says, Anihu Bal Habayis. He was given to know this, and that's how he knew it. Not by seeing the bira, he would know the Bal Habayis.
A short question, but why does it explain the difference between us and Abba and Rebbe? It's all about bittul.
I alluded to this is because we have these movements, quote unquote, in Yiddishkeit, who say that that Torah Shebe'al Peh is permitted to be darshaned and interpreted according to our current thinking process, our current mindset. And to us today, lighting a match is not making fire. It's not creating anything. Because it's effortless. And therefore that's permitted. And all kinds of different other interpretations and so forth. So I'm saying that the definition of mitzvahs is nasa. There's a nasa, primary nasa that defines what the mitzvah is, and it does not lend itself to human interpretation, to human seichel, to understand what this nasa is. Nasa is a godly command, and it defines the following only by godliness, by the godly command, not by human interpretation.
What is about Rebbe different than us?
What?
What is the difference? Why did the Bible able to debate halacha and not in our generation?
Abaye and Rebbe were able to define halacha because they had this nasa quality in their seichel, the beetle. This is how they were able to define halacha. This was not a human seichel. All right, this is it for this morning, and Mitzvah Shem, we will reconvene this evening again, as we usually do Thursday night. Have a great day.